Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, 5 o'clock.
Inner or outer?
Okay, call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Seidel.
Here.
Mrs. Noem. Here. Mrs. Hunt. Here. Mrs. Peck. Here. Mrs. Fink. Here. Mr. Bortz. Mr. Umlin.
Here.
Mrs. Carroll. Mr. Smedley.
Here. Was the agenda posted?
It was.
Thank you. Introduction of new staff.
All right, so we're going to start off today's meeting by introducing you to the new faces that we've added to our team this year. They also have with them their mentors, so their mentor is going to come up, just introduce themselves, and then introduce who our new staff member is, so you're going to get a chance to meet those people. So we're going to roll in order, whoever wants to go first.
Right here. I'm sorry.
I'm Stephanie Hertz. I'm family consumer science teacher. This is my 10th year here. And this is Jeff Baczynski, and it is his 45th year teaching. His first year at Lakeland, and he's going to be teaching welding, and then he also has a woods class this year.
Well, hey, I'm very excited for the opportunity here. I have for a long time helped students get ready for life after high school and have the opportunity to get into the trades, because there are opportunities galore out there for them if they're willing to work. And so far, I've met a great group of kids I have in class that are excited and motivated, and knock on wood, hopefully we can keep them going in that direction. So I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys are just coming up from behind there? Okay, that works.
Good evening, I'm Lynn Chica. I am a Spanish instructor and I work with our English language learners. This is year 19 at Lakeland. And I'm introducing, there she is, Abby McCallum, who has been teaching math for 5 years, and she is our new math interventionist.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome.
You don't have to Paczynski us if you don't want to.
No, I'm just really grateful to be able to start this new position and continue to grow the math department and have the layered supports that can ensure some success.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, they are getting younger.
Hi, Ian Schwanda, science teacher, 7th year at Lakeland and Lakeland alumni, so. This is Jared Flynn, originally from Tomahawk, one of our new tech ed teachers. This is his first year, fresh out of school teaching.
Welcome.
Well, just thank you guys for letting me work here. I'm first off, but it's just been a blessing, honestly, to come back to the Northwoods right out of college. Like, you have no idea how pumped I was to get this job opportunity, and then going into the shop and seeing the tools that we have in there currently, and then what I can already envision where we can go with it, and just building up the program, like, it gets me so excited. So, just thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. I cannot let it pass that Ian is also our North Lakeland.
North Lakeland specifically, yeah. Oh yeah, Barbara's my teacher. One of my favorites too.
So many.
That's true.
So I'm going to introduce Jeremy Seehafer. His mentor is Manson Morris. Manson is our head volleyball coach, so he's in practice right now. Jeremy has been teaching for 24 years, right? 24 years. Most recently in Hong Kong. He's back in the United States for the first time in 20 years in a teaching role. So we're just grateful to have his experience in our ELA classrooms.
Great. Yeah, I'm really grateful to be back. I'm from LUHS originally, so I feel like I'm just returning to my roots here, coming back to the Northwoods. We bought a place here 15 years ago, but just spending time here in the summer. But it's really fun and exciting to be back here full time. So I'm looking forward to learning about from this community and contributing to it as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tony Gordon, science teacher, 30 plus, I think it's 35 years here. I'm mentoring Jacob Jarvincevu. He's back year 10. He's also our boys head basketball coach.
First of all, thanks for the opportunity for both jobs. You know, hopefully I don't disappoint in either. And I think that's the thing that I'm most excited about is being able to impact kids both, you know, athletically and in the classroom this time when I'm here. So thanks for the opportunity.
Good,
Thank you.
Mike Snyder, my 27th year of teaching, my 5th year here at Lakeland. 90 graduate, and I'm a Muskie. And yes, thank you. And this is Kayla Freeman. She's an 05 graduate. She's a Firebird. And Kayla was here a couple years ago as a long-term sub, and then she was at Like the Flame last year, and we were lucky enough to have her back. She's teaching physical science and honors chemistry. And I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to be a science teacher. That's my end game. My kids, I grew up here, my kids are growing up here, so it's really cool to be back at where, like, this is home for me. So I'm super excited and hope to continue to grow.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
I also get to introduce Yvette Loisel. Yvette is in her 24th year of being in education. Adam Bremer is going to be mentoring this year, but she's in our science classroom as well. And Yvette's journey to getting here, it was really at the last minute at the beginning of the school year, but she has hit the ground running, and then she had to stop running. Welcome, Yvette.
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I really love the students that I'm working with every day, and I feel like it's a fit for me, and I just feel really blessed. I've been telling all my friends, you know, I just talk about how much I love this place. And so thank you for the opportunity, and I hope to do great things with our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Becky Tyler, this is my 30th year teaching, 27th year teaching here at Lakeland, teaching math. I've had the opportunity to be a mentor for other staff members, but it's super exciting when you get to be a mentor for somebody that you had as a student. You feel like you've come full circle, and that you always hope that they go off to do great things, but when the great thing is that they're in the classroom right next door to you, it like gives me goosebumps. So this is Kate Hasek, and she's been teaching for 3 years, and she's now teaching English here with us.
Thank you for allowing me to come back to Northwoods. I missed it. And I'm really excited to hopefully impact my students the same way my former teachers impacted me, and they inspired me to become a teacher. So hopefully I can convince a couple of them to join education. Thank you.
Welcome.
Introduce our next new teammate, Mr. Devin DeVerney. Devin is in his first year working professionally in education. Devin is going to school to get his teaching license, but he has joined the Voyager program as one of our support people, one of our great leaders of that group of kids. And I can tell you that Devin was grateful to come back and be a part of this team. It was something that he talked about while he was a high school student here, but when I gave him a call to see if he had any interest, I think that was the selling point right there, is to call. He was in, so.
Yeah, my name's Devin. I work paraprofessional for Voyager, and it's a very unique opportunity that you guys have given me. Come home and teach students that don't fit in a traditional classroom. And this is the trouble of just getting to school and external factors, and that was the same when I got into high school. I couldn't wake up to alarm bell. My dad was always there, and I never really had a mom that came. And a lot of these kids, that it's not the first thing on their mind is coming to school, and this program helps them come out and do that and get excited to come into school, because they're not in a traditional classroom. They get out and do things that they enjoy, and that's really where I come in and can connect with them and be inspiration for them, not only being a good person, but leaders in the community. And that's where getting them out and having them do things in the community and just getting out and having fun and being kids that, you know, some of them don't get to do at home. They get to go home and have a job or watch kids and stuff. This is where they come to school and want to be here. And it's a great opportunity that you guys have given me. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next person I want to introduce is Hope Cameron. Hope is our new assistant principal, associate principal, whatever title we want to call that. Yes, Hope is in her 13th year of education. 12.
They didn't hire for a math teacher, we're good.
Seems like a year. She came to us from the Wausau School District, and Hope.
Thank you for the opportunity. I am so excited to be a part of the uniqueness that is Lakeland Union High School. And I'm just excited to be here and get to know folks in the community and work with our students. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Hope.
Thank you. All right, that is our new staff.
Only a few this year.
Busy. Okay, the student representative report.
So as part of what we are looking to bring back to the forefront of the board is our students and what they are thinking, what they're seeing, how they're feeling about the district. Grace is so graciously going to be giving us a monthly report. We also are going to squeeze in some recognitions here as well, because I think it's always important to talk about from the student's perspective, but also what the achievements are actually happening and the ones that aren't maybe as well publicized. So, Grace?
Yeah, so we're far enough into the school year where it's like you're getting tests now, the ball started rolling. And with that, we have homecoming on October, the week starts October 1st. The dance is on the 7th, and we're really excited about that. It's kind of the pinnacle of fall. The theme is A Night in Hollywood. So we have Powder Puff and boys volleyball this year. We're doing a movie night on that Wednesday, and then that Friday is our homecoming football game versus Hayward at 7 p.m. There's been a lot of engagement so far in clubs from freshmen, which is really great to see because that hasn't happened a lot since COVID, so that's coming back, and that's really exciting. Our freshmen, sophomore, and juniors are all taking the pre-ACT ACT on Thursday this week, and then the juniors take their official ACT in March, so it's really great that they're getting extra preparation, and us seniors don't have to come till 11, so I'm really excited. And then we also, a lot of us had the opportunity to go to the Wisconsin Education Fair last Friday, and so there was a bunch of representatives from a bunch of post-secondary systems, whether it was trade schools or UW system, and that was really great for people to see what they wanted to do. So it's getting going, it's been going good.
Nice.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So I couldn't resist the fact that Grace was so helpful in doing this, and thank you again. Should also be noted that Grace, other than being a volleyball player, she's the class president, student council president, and the DECA president combined. She's also, and this is a really, really big deal, she's the ambassador to DECA, which has weekly Zoom meetings with DECA leadership and setting Wisconsin-wide goals and initiatives for DECA, which, believe me when I tell you, is a lot of work. So just want to let you know that the person you're hearing from literally takes advantage of every goofy thing we offer and does it to her fullest. So thanks, Grace.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
Okay, student recognition.
That would be that.
That was it. Opportunity for citizens to address the board. Seeing none, we'll move on to miscellaneous. Got a recognition from a WASC member.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So for those of you who don't know, Miss Peck has received we're Region 2, correct?
Yes.
Represented, I think it's representative of the year, don't remember the exact thing. It's something like that.
I think it's the next level or something.
Regardless, she's been
Anyway,
honored by the Wisconsin Association of School Boards as the Region 2 person. again, another thankless job. Finally someone gets some recognition for, so thank you very much, Barbara.
What level are you?
3. So Lisa, can we still sign up for the 18th?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
I'll send her over.
Okay. Discussion, bylaws for later discussion. Did everybody get a copy of those, have a chance to go over those? Any questions about those?
Anything you want to bring back through?
Was there a reason we
I
were
thought-
reviewing them?
Just new board members that time of year, that's kind of standard practice from places I've been. It's just kind of like
Okay.
review and see if there's something that's changed, updates we want to make given our new, structure, any of that manner. It's just very helpful, just kind of review and refresh at the beginning of the year.
Follow the procedures, make everybody aware of them, so, yeah, that's just a review.
I think especially if you ask for information,
Yeah.
making sure we're following the procedure.
Yep.
The 132.2, the administrative guidelines,
Yep.
any word on those, what's
Yep,
going on?
he's just waiting on them to come back from Chris. We have 2 or 3 from the technology director that we gotta get on the same page with. And then the rest of them are pretty much gonna be ready for publish, when Neola comes back for their next round with us, which is, I couldn't remember off the top of my head, I'd have to look. But yes, they're in Chris's hands for the most part. Lisa has been hounding me about the ones I need to get done, which is, and I mean that in a nice way. But the reality is, it's in Neola's hands for some of the publication pieces, and we had a couple questions on language. I know it's a shocker for you guys that I might have had questions on language and administrative guidelines, but we tried to make them look as clean as we could and hit those places where policy and handbook fall short, and so we have some guidelines moving forward. I know it would drastically help for some of these things that are, say, see handbook, and the handbook says see policy, and then administrative guideline would kick in. So that's why we're trying to just even those out, and once I hear from Chris, it should be very, very soon now, as in next month,
Okay.
is the goal.
Is there a reason why it's been taking so long?
I've been editing,
Okay.
because there were some things that didn't pertain, so we had some changeover, and some of those people were supposed to look at those guidelines, and they are not here, so it took a little extra time for me to go back to them.
There's 2 others in the bylaws that pertain to our goals. Can I just bring those forward during the goals then? Okay.
Okay, report, team structure, administrative team structure.
So you guys had asked me to kind of lay out a couple different options on where the Star Governance Board fit in. Forgive me for, kind of just laying it out a couple different ways. It's not exactly user-friendly when you look at it. Just want some guidance on where you want the Star Governance Board to fit in. You had asked for one where it's Board of Education, Star Governance, then me, or which would be my preference, we Board of Education, Star Governance, and me at the same level, working cohesively together as opposed to having some sort of power structure in that regard. I think that, because ultimately it just, you're the last say, and the Governance Board doesn't have the say without your say, is how I felt about that, and that puts me on par with them on equal playing ground. I mean, does anybody have an issue with that?
No, I think that's the right fit.
Okay.
I agree, I think it should be on the same level, but I'm wondering, the first structure that you gave us, I'm wondering if that line after Star Governance should not be there.
Oh,
It
just
should
kind of
be-
DD it out, got it.
It should be after District Administrator,
Got it.
not,
Not you, not them.
no,
Yeah.
not that
We're
one.
good.
That was my case.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay.
Good catch, thank you.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I got a lot less to do.
Yeah.
More for me.
So are we in agreement then to go with option A?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. Next is report, the seclusion restraints report that we need to see every year.
And it's really short.
There were none.
Yeah.
No record of any incidents or events of seclusion and restraint, both at Lakeland Union and Star.
Which is something you really strive to do, because we don't wanna put hands on kids when they're elevated, and we had a fairly decent year when it came to those kinds of things. Obviously, we had other things we were working on, but, yeah, documentation wise, we've met our obligation for that for the year.
Great.
Thank you. Next is discussion possible action of the FY24 contracts.
Eddie?
Yeah, just basically it's the same list you guys have been seeing. The yellow ones at the bottom are just more recent ones, so if you can approve those. Again, we're just trying to develop this list, follow the policy, and I did just ask for Bob and Lisa to put on the next policy agenda, the purchasing policy itself, so that we can possibly modify that language, so that, for example, we're not bringing a $500 subscription to you for approval, just for the sake of simplicity and trying to be able to execute those basic things. But nevertheless, it is on the list, so if you guys can approve the ones in yellow, we'll keep listing them and plugging away at it. I have to make the list anyways because our auditors want it, because they're not happy about schools signing multi-year agreements and not booking them accordingly, so.
Okay, motion to approve the ones in yellow.
Second.
On the contracts list.
Second, I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Seidel.
Yes.
Mrs. Holm.
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
Yes.
Mrs. Peck.
Yes.
Mrs. Fink.
Yes.
Mr. Umlin.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes. Thank you. Overnight trips.
So here we go. This is the thing that happens every year at this time, is that when we have people looking to do overnight trips, we bring them to the board for approval as part of policy. Looking to have the following trips listed out here. Our Devil's Lake climbing trip is an overnight trip that happens every year. Some proper amount of chaperones and everything will be had, both by male and female and the counts. That doesn't get to the board before they get that portion done. That's the step we added in between here, is to make sure you have them signed up and ready to go before we do that. And then you can ask the question, well, are you able to find chaperones? Yes, the answer is going to be yes when it comes here. WSMA Honors Choir, UW-Madison, that's another one of those you really want your people to go to, because that's a state level competition and honor. It just happens to be we live where we live, and it's a lot farther away than it would be if we were in Portage. So again, that would be one we would recommend for approval. And the third one was just brought to me last week through Ms. Hartsheim in combination with Higher Ed. They have secured funding to have our students go out to Dartmouth to see what an East Coast campus can do. Right when they were talking to me at that time, it was 9 students that had signed up to take that visit on no cost to us. They're just trying to find transportation at this point in time. They have the amount of people, they have the time, they have the funding, they just need transportation to Green Bay for the flight. So that's what they were working on when they talked to me, but I would recommend highly, because the students that would be going out there wouldn't otherwise have that exposure to go out there, and when somebody's offering something that nice, you don't want to look that gift horse in the mouth, and it would be a phenomenal experience overall, that if they start doing it with regularity, could be something we could leverage moving forward for our students.
How many students are going?
Right now, they had 8.
So we couldn't let them use a van to get to the airport?
We can. We were just trying to make sure that it was going to be a van that wasn't in use while they were gone for that week. That's what we were working out on Friday.
Okay.
So.
It's done. They're using the van.
See,
Yep.
but it wasn't done on Friday when I wrote it. So yeah, so they have now transportation, so.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the overnight trip.
Gary, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can we just pull out 3 separate, vote on those separate? I need to
Sure.
abstain. I need to abstain.
Sure. If I could have a motion to approve number 1, Devil's Lake climbing trip.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, roll call, please.
Mrs. Noel.
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
Yes.
Mrs. Peck.
Yes.
Mrs. Fink.
Yes.
Mr. Umlin.
Yes.
Mr. Seidel.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes. I would entertain a motion to approve WSMA Honors Choir, UW-Madison.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, roll call, please.
Mrs. Hunt.
Yes.
Mrs. Peck.
Yes.
Mrs. Fink.
Yes.
Mr. Umlin.
Yes.
Mr. Seidel.
Yes.
Mrs. Noel.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes. And finally, college visit to Dartmouth University.
Can I ask a question on that? Who's going? Are these seniors going? Are these juniors going?
Right now, it was all upperclassmen, juniors and seniors.
Okay.
But they didn't have like a set criteria on who was gonna go. It was just upperclassmen right now.
And they're all paying for that, or? we're paying?
We aren't paying for any, the van, they can borrow our van to get over there. That's where all we're on the hook for.
Okay.
Yep.
Did I get a second?
I need a first and second.
I need a first and a second.
I make a motion to approve.
So moved.
So I got 1 and 2.
1 and 2. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Peck,
Yes.
Mrs. Fink,
Yes.
Mr. Umling,
Yes.
Mr. Seidel,
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt, Mr. Smith.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, treasurer report. We need the finance manager treasurer to include reports. You got a check payments that we saw in the wiki? Do we have those?
Yep, everything should be attached in there.
Okay.
So, just, let's switch screens here. Yep, all the reports should be there. The only one I held off on this month because we're so early, we've only cut 1 teacher paycheck at this point. I didn't put the 5 cash reports at the bottom. There's just so little done. Additionally, you guys are kind of going to tell us too tonight, hopefully, what budget we're bringing to you. So, again, the numbers of like where are we at, so to speak, and what is it when it's comparing and all that. I don't want you to see it without knowing which one I should be showing you, if that makes sense. So, but the rest of all the normal reports should be there. Budget calendars updated. Student activity accounts, I put a link there for you. We've been kind of working on getting those tidied up. The only one that I don't have a representative for is dance. Yeah, I think there was a coach last year, but like this year there is no coach. There's been no students in it, and so we might just sit tight on that one and see if the club comes back to life next year. If it doesn't and there are no POMs, then we might just wipe the slate clean then. Either way, that's probably what'll happen, because at that point, we're gonna be in this place where it's been like 2 years with a negative balance and no coach, and nobody who will be there will want to be responsible for who was there. So, I can give you a spreadsheet too of the other couple of clubs that I kind of worked with. Basketball, hockey, I forget, there's 1 or 2 other ones, but kind of went back, reviewed their transactions, and I think what we're gonna do is try to split some of that responsibility. There were some past disagreements that didn't get resolved and kind of resulted in some of the balances, but I think we're gonna be in a good place. Hockey already paid, and basketball is gonna take it out of their actual budget for the current year, for this year and for next, and so they'll be settled up in about 1.5 years. So that's roughly what is going on with those clubs, so that we can get all back to zero. And then as coaches have been coming in, I've been sending them automated reports so they can see what those balances are and kind of keep tabs on those things as they go. So I think those are the highlights. Audit stuff is on track. AC was submitted. Our aid certification and whatnot was submitted as well, both ours and the auditors. And the final report is due this Friday, so we're just finishing up some final things there, but for the most part, probably about 5 months or 6 months ahead of last year, so.
Awesome.
And not fighting with the auditor about scholarships, so.
Thank you
Yes.
for the adjustment you made on the P cards, that was awesome.
The explanations.
Adjustments.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, just the message of what things were for. like you had asked us.
I told Sean, like, I put a request in, cause the report's detailed, but it's terrible to read. And so like, if I can get the old report to work with a description, that would be the ideal report. And I actually just pinged him again today, cause I said, we put this in, it's been like 1.5 weeks and I haven't heard anything, so. Hopefully by next month we've got that. If not, we'll just kinda do this new one, so to speak, cause it shows the detail, but it's just not as pleasant on the eyes.
Great.
No, but thank you.
All right. I would entertain a motion to approve checks and procurement card transactions from August 1st, 2023 to August 31st, 2023 as recommended.
Second.
Okay, a motion second, roll call.
Mrs. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Umlin?
Yes.
Mr. Seidel?
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt?
Yes.
Mrs. Peck?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Are we in board agenda planners?
Yeah.
Board agenda planner items, overview of the budget.
So tonight you guys got a topic summary sheet with 2 different proposals. We are working off of the assumption right now that the STAR funding scenario is not gonna change, and we are gonna continue with what we have been doing. That being said, there's basically 2 proposals. We can balance our budget either way, if that is the path that the board wishes to go down. The recommendation right now administratively is to spend into the red. Again, not necessarily a long-term solution, but it's kind of working at a combination of things that help us get some things in the facility done. The biggest one probably is the tennis courts, which I think we've kind of definitely portrayed that that's something we're gonna try to execute this year. But either way, we can balance it and still do tennis courts. There would just probably be couple more adjustments I'd make prior to coming back to you in October, but it is definitely within our grasp and something that can be done. So, that being said, what we wanted to know tonight is, are we bringing you the deficit budget next month, or are we bringing you a balanced budget next month? And we just wanted to make sure we're prepared that night to bring you what.
Right, and with the explanation of what we're not going to do in that regard, because our recommendation would be to address some of these capital projects, but if we're gonna bring you a balanced budget, we would have to obviously just adjust in other places in budgets and get a little leaner in some areas we think we might be able to get there, so.
What's the wish? Go ahead.
You know, relative to the tennis, that's something that we're definitely gonna, try to do this year. But that still doesn't stop us from seeking and recruiting donations to fund that project.
Right.
So, though we may be in a deficit, that could be definitely or significantly reduced due to the recruitment of donations for that area.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
Yes, Barb?
Didn't we order vape detectors last year for this school year?
Yes, those needed to be returned for personnel reasons.
Oh, yes, okay. Sorry, Brandon.
No, it's okay.
So which one do we want?
Are you looking for a motion?
Yeah. Well, we can talk about, we can get the motion and then we can discuss.
Right.
I
Yeah,
make a
can
motion to
discuss
go
it.
along with the administrative recommendation, accept the deficit budget.
What did you say?
I said I'd make a motion to go along with the recommendation of administration and accept the deficit budget they proposed.
Assumption one,
Yes.
I would second that.
Okay, discussion, I have a motion and second discussion.
Just a reminder, everybody, we passed a $1.8 million deficit budget last year and came in under
We
$1 million
proposed a
deficit.
1 million under.
Yeah.
But we came in under 1.8 million, which means we put 800,000 into fund balance. Just because we're passing this budget, there's gonna be some movement and fluctuation throughout the year. This is a budgeted item, and then the budget execution, which historically, we've needed to, we're trying to get this cleaner, so the numbers that get presented, there isn't such wild variation. And I will tell you, the amount of time I've spent looking at spreadsheets that Mr. Then has shared, and those of you who have had the privilege of looking at them as well, we lost some eyesight, but there is we are very confident that we're gonna be very close to these numbers if we execute this plan.
Great. Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Umlin?
Yes.
Mr. Seidel?
Yes.
Mrs. Nome?
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt?
Yes.
Mrs. Peck?
Yes.
Mrs. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. There you go. Okay, next is the discussion, possible action for the 23-24 board goals. In the packet were the goals that was discussed, I don't know what date that was. The 11th, thank you. And they were gone over in quite detail, and we came up with the 5 sentences for each goal, and then there was also an evaluation on the back, so any discussion on that?
I would like to, I'm sorry, Sean,
No.
you go first.
Okay, well, I want to thank you. I wasn't able to be here due to a previous contractual obligation of officiating. And so thank you, Gary, for answering my email today.
Yes,
that, I didn't know if these were the 5 that you two brought up and were discussing, but I got that answer today. I like the goals. I have a couple things with goal number 1, with communication. I don't know if we can change business community to just community, because then taxpayers, our citizens are included in that and not just business community. Then with 3, meet all students' academic objectives, and then 5, wellness and safety of all school community members. I don't know if that kind of fits with our finance and accountability, because it looks like we could set ourselves up for deficit spending every year because we want to be everything to all people. So those are just my issues or concerns. Thank you so much, and I appreciate all the hard work.
What's your recommended change on number 3, Sean?
Deleting all.
Deleting all, so meet all students' academic, you
So
know.
you're just saying meet students' academic?
And yes, and then something with finance and accountability where we strive to work towards a balanced budget or something like that.
I think by the definition of the word goal, your goal should be to try to meet all of the students. And
I
that's
think-
at least the way the goal should be stated.
I think the discussion on that went around not only the collegiate, the technology, just preparing our students to be productive individuals in society. And that's all of them.
You know, and I was thinking, okay, someone wants to go on to become a truck driver and they're 18 years of age, are we going to provide them, send them down to Fox Valley Tech in Appleton to get, I mean, so I was just kind of thinking, this could get very expensive because our goal says we are, and then.
It says we will encourage and support a data-driven.
And how I read that, these are not my goals, these are your goals. But when I see, like, that's a perfect example, Sean, because I just had a conversation with a group that says, we need drivers and we're willing to put some money to that. That's not coming from my pocket. They're willing to put their money towards sending a kid to get their CDL, which is like $5-6 grand. So, I mean, I think that's where our role would come in there. That's just how I interpreted it. But it doesn't have to come out of our coffers, but we should be facilitating that bridge to these funding sources for these kids.
Right, yeah, and that's excellent. I was just saying at what cost, dealing with finance and accountability, so.
You hit some of them I hit. On that same one, I
Which
guess,
one?
goal number 3 that you're just talking about,
Mhm.
the highest level of achievement for post-secondary success, and on some of these kids are going to the workforce.
That's
That's
post-secondary.
post-secondary.
Anything after high school is post-secondary.
We went around and around and around and around.
Okay, cause I looked up the definition and it was to go into school, not go to the workforce, and that's why.
The biggest push was like, how do you say, just after school, and then that was the decision of, because we are very much in tune with the conversation was anyway, about all facets, not just college
Okay,
bound.
perfect, no, thank you.
Yeah.
The first goal of communication, I also questioned that we labeled stakeholders as students, parents, educators, administrators, policymaker, and the business community. I took business community as in those were our businesses and our taxpayers aren't here. I mean, can we just leave it as the stakeholders? Do we have to label?
We went back and forth on that too.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
we did.
I wanted to look at the video, but there isn't one to listen to your meeting, so.
Well, it was 90 minutes long, believe me, we went over it and over
Yeah,
it.
and to
90
that end, I
minutes.
mean.
And I
you know,
can't say it was just ours,
Oh,
because
no.
really, once it was panned out, it wasn't our goals.
Each
Yeah.
person went around and.
Yeah, no, cause I was gonna watch the video, so I at least understood what the conversations were, and there's no video, so I can't do that. But
there should be.
going
Yeah,
back
It
to,
wasn't one.
it was taped?
Well,
Okay. But going back to the bylaws we were to review, bylaw 174.3 says reports to keep the community adequately informed. And bylaw 123 says communication, to have a two-way communication with our community. So my biggest thing with, and I'm sure I put it in my email, is that as a person who doesn't have a student here in school, I get absolutely nothing that says what's going on here at Lakeland. There is no communication at all.
I think the
But-
discussion that we had was that that's Bob's job, is that we wanted it to be broad enough, and we brought up all of your comments, cause we had printed all of that out, and we're sitting here with it, is to keep these goals really broad, so that Bob has to work out how to make sure that he does that for students, for parents, and for all of those that are listed. I probably would agree with you, Sean, I think that business should come out, it can just be community in general, but I think that we discussed we
Yep.
discussed that it's not our role to give him specifics.
No.
That
Right.
he's gonna figure that out, and then we will critique him on it afterwards.
But you're right, we talked about that a lot.
We did.
He has the how. How are
Yes.
you gonna
Yep.
communicate with parents, or how are you gonna communicate with people in the community who do not have students here? That's his job.
Yes,
And
no,
that-
and I get that, but when I saw the business community,
Yeah,
I
see how
took
that-
out, where's just the plain us?
I think it's good to take out business.
Okay.
I just also want you guys to know, I haven't redacted anything yet, but I'm gonna show at a distance, kind of a academic, I'll have to spin it around. Anyway, I have data supplied by Ms. Ryan, she's the warehouse and keeper of all things that are longitudinal in our data, but we have enrollment info, pre-ACT data, ACT data, Star Renaissance data, AP testing, tutoring, student surveys, staff surveys, attendance, discipline, educational environments, which is where they're receiving.
This was the dashboard we were talking about.
Correct,
Got
correct.
it.
Or some variation of it. There'll be some of this that probably won't be as important, like I won't have ed environments on every quarter, but grad rate and things like that would be very important to update as we go along. It exists, it's here, and something similar to your point, for communication, I can list, we've had this many meetings out in the community. I met with Mr. Hartzheim, I met with Mr. Hanson, we could list those out so you know how many community contacts were there. Are we updating our social media presence, all those kinds of things? And I think there's gonna be a dashboard very similar to tabs like this that I bring to you when you guys see my goals. But I just wanna let you know, we've got the data, it's there. I wanna be able to compartmentalize it and not have you digest it every week, but like, I could see quarterly to start and then seeing what is pertinent, because some of this data is embargoed until a certain point in the year. So that would, if we gave us quarterly, we'd be able to share that, but some of the real-time stuff will be very, very helpful to you guys when you're trying to say to somebody, how do you know your school's doing well? Well, funny you should ask that. Here's our dashboard. Please go here, and those kind of things. Why you don't reach out to our community as much? Well, that's actually not true. We've been trying to build that up, and here's a dashboard that shows you where that is. And that really gives you guys some, obviously talk to people, but it gives you some talking points and clean, accurate data as shared to you by administration.
Awesome.
So can we take these one by one and just go for votes on them? And, I mean, obviously, if we want, or if it's consensus that the business community business needs to be struck from goal one, I would certainly make a motion that we approve goal one with the word business struck. And then have a second discussion and go on that way.
You don't think that we can just approve all 5 of them at one time?
Well, apparently, we're gonna have to have discussions about each of them, but I think it's gonna be easier to do them one at a time and just get them done.
Okay. I would like to just say to Heidi and Sean.
Can we have a second on the motion though? Can we do a motion in a second and then do discussion on 1 through 5?
Can I ask just a really quick question?
Sure.
Are the only ones in contention right now, 1, which we've resolved? Have we resolved it enough?
Yep.
Yeah, you've answered my question.
3,
I'm okay with 3.
no, somebody didn't like all.
That was me.
Okay, and then, so 1, 2, and 3?
And then, well,
Were those the 3 ones that we were still, that are?
That's why we're just going.
Yeah, okay. You
Just to get a comment.
Okay, do I have a second for number 1?
With the word
Second.
business struck.
Okay, okay, motion and a second. Everyone agree to that, striking the word business?
I'd like to just say to Sean and Heidi, since you weren't here, I mean, 7 of us put a great deal of effort and time into this. And if you look at 1 and 3, those are almost word for word of our current goals. They're almost word for word. We just added a few words. So that came from our present goals. So I know, Sean, you said you liked the present goals. Well, it came from our present goals with very few changes, only a few words.
The general with communication, academic excellence, and student well-being, and a balanced budget, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So, we can do a voice. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. There's no changes suggested for number 2, is that correct?
Sean?
Well, I would like to see something like we strive to work towards a balanced budget. It shows to our community that we understand that it may not happen, but that we're working towards that, so that we're good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. That was my.
No, I'm new to this, but we just approved a deficit budget, so, I mean, that's
But
me,
there's-
and I have a hard time doing that because I'm new to this and I don't understand it entirely. But it seems like it comes around.
It should.
Well, and I think, again, this was a huge part of the discussion. And one of the things that we recognize is that we're going to have to spend some money on facilities, so on and so forth. And that's very likely that we're not gonna be able to present a balanced budget. So rather than do that, what we talked about was presenting a budget that was responsible, whether it's surplus or deficit, but let the needs of the district determine whether or not it would be balanced, period. And that's what.
Can we put that wording in?
Responsible budget?
But reflects the district's priorities is there.
It's there.
That's
And
the
balance.
wording, I
It
think.
reflects the district's priority values and while supporting academic, I mean, all that was boiled down into this statement.
Yeah, we tried to get it into like a one sentence, be concise, so we're not really second guessing, what we were trying to get across.
And we did discuss that part, and we chose not to put that in there. I mean, 7 of our 9 board members chose not to put it in there. So I respect your opinion, Sean, but at the same time, 7 of us for 90 minutes chose not to put it in. So I hate to be hard-nosed about that,
That's
so
okay.
I think
You-
these are our,
you
these are our
feel how you
votes,
wanna
because
feel, that's
7 of
no
us
biggie.
voted on it.
Yeah.
So
And I understand the whole balance, I mean, truly, I
Oh, I
believe in a
do too.
balanced budget, but then I also look at what we're doing right now, and clearly we can't. I'm
The
not
reason
sure
why I
understand that
approved
portion of it.
assumption 1 was because we are gonna be actively going into the community and seeking donations, so with the tennis court project, it's not gonna be the $380,000 deficit that we're gonna be spending. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
There'll be some, for sure. I think you maybe get around it, as far as saying based upon, you say it, district priorities and values while supporting academic excellence, but, fiscal planning. This is, you go up or down depending on the year and the needs of that year.
Again, that's the.
District priority.
That's the how.
Exactly.
I understand.
So we just want to get a statement that reflects the values. The whole conversation started out as a list of values of the board. I mean, we all want to be fiscally responsible, but there's 2 sides to fiscal responsibility. There's the taxpayers' revenue side, and there's the expense side, and the needs of the district side. And of course, we'd like it all to balance. We'd like it even to be surplus if we could. But this statement does say that. It says reflects the district's priorities and the values supporting academic excellence. It says that we are going to try to be responsible with money.
And I appreciate, Barb, that you mentioned that you spend 90 minutes on this. I would have loved to have watched 90 minutes of it, because
Yeah.
I went there several times to look, to see if the video was
Should be.
uplinked.
I got you.
And so, so this is good that I'm hearing this, because.
Because, I sent an email to Gary asking for, when I read the Lakeland Times, and it said that you guys had spent some time and presented. I asked for that information to be given to me, and I didn't get it. Okay? And then I find out Sean sent an email, which I didn't get his information. So trying to put this all together, I didn't see what you guys had.
We had the current goals, and then the work, just one sheet from them, that's all we had.
We had the
And-
printout from you, your email.
And your email, we
We
talked.
had Bob's information.
Yeah.
And
We
Sean's.
had,
And then our current goals.
we had our current goals.
And we reflected on your request.
Right, but I
all
mean,
that stuff.
all I'm saying is like when we communicate, when I read the Lakeland Times, I knew you guys put in work, but I didn't get to see that, to see what you guys, and read it. So, to get all the information, to see where you came, I would have liked, just to get it.
And I'll own the video not being posted. I thought it was gonna get up there, cause it was being recorded that night, so I mean, that usually goes up right away. That's on me and I'll own that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, I guess, why we have questions, is we didn't, I'm gonna say we didn't see it, because you're saying you didn't see it, but I didn't get that to see where you guys came from, and that's why we have questions. I'm not arguing, I'm thankful you guys spent the time, but that's probably why we have the questions, because I didn't get all the information you guys had.
Right, and Ann had done some work and I had done some work, so we all
Yep.
were involved in it.
No, but I mean, I just went off the Lakeland Times, and then I sent an email to Gary asking for their report, because I wanted to see it. And when I got the email, I actually thought this was Barry and Lisa's.
Well,
I
we
did
sort
not
of,
know.
they came with the 5. You guys came with me.
There was
It
more
was a
to it than that.
combination, really, it was a combination of everything.
everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but
The only thing that survived from the original work that we did, or when we sat down, is the actual format of the way it's laid out with the,
Yeah,
the-
yeah.
the markers on the back. Everything else, and it was very clearly stated by me at the beginning of the meeting, that we just made an attempt in trying to get started with the discussion of laying down some value statements. These goals, some of them came directly from the old goals, some of them came from language that was developed from those value statements. And that's really, it was all written that night. We didn't, there wasn't anything that was directly copied.
No.
And at least from my perspective, and I said that night, I've never done this before, so literally I spent hours researching what the national standards were for governance boards, what the state standards were. So some of these additions were part of what they had recommended on governance boards, school governance boards. So that's why some of this language in particular, even the language from number 1, that was literally from the governance boards, what they said. So it's not, but I agree with you taking business out, totally agree with it. But, so when we come this way, I guess it sounds negative to you two, but it's really
No, I don't-
not.
I
It's
don't
more
think it's
about
negative.
informational, like we've discussed that, but it might sound like we're not paying attention, but we are.
And to
No,
be
I
clear,
don't think that at
to be
all.
clear, the reason that we met was, first of all, I had talked to Lisa because I wanted to talk to her about some curriculum things that she had brought up in prior meetings. And then when we talked to set the meeting, she said, oh, good, because I have some questions about board goals. And when we talked, it wasn't so much about the content of the goals or what the words even were, it was how do I bring this to the board? And so that's when we came up with the strategy of just listing it out. And I told you in that meeting, I said, they're either gonna love this or they're gonna hate it. And some of it might survive, some of it might not. But the way you bring it to the board is have some sort of presentation and bring it to them.
Well, thank you.
And
Yeah,
so
I
that's what we
appreciate
did.
that.
No, and I guess my only thing is, we have board members not here tonight, and if there are handouts or something, we gotta make sure they get it.
Gotcha.
Because you guys had more, and I didn't get to see it, to even see where you went from your information to these, which I appreciate.
So-
That's all I'm asking, is
Yeah.
that as documents or whatever are presented in a meeting, that if there are people not here, we get them
And
that
present it as-
information
give that
and
as your
say,
packet.
And you
here,
should.
here's what was discussed that night.
I understand that, but if, for maybe in the future, first part of communication, our goal that we already passed, that they have all the information that was presented at the time and how, and then you can make a.
Well, the summary of the information is what's important, and that's what came forward, and I
But the
mean, in
process is
general,
important, too.
That's all, well, yeah, but that's all anybody ever gets. I mean, if you're not gonna be at the meeting, you're gonna get what the minutes are, you're gonna get the motions, and you're gonna get any of the board pack that was handed out, and that's what you're gonna get. I mean, that's how boards move forward. I mean, I can't be at every one, I accept what's happened at a board meeting that I'm not there at, and motions have been made, and we move on.
Yeah.
So-
In the video, if it's, you get it up.
The video would
Be
help
good
you
to watch.
understand.
Yeah,
Right.
that's, again, I
Yes.
apologize.
Okay, so let's move on. So
Number
let's,
two.
number 2.
Did we have a motion in a second already?
Yes.
Did we,
And there was
did
an
we
all
agree
aye,
on
yes.
this?
Yeah, we're on number 2, goal 2.
Sean, did you have anything that
No,
you felt?
no,
Okay.
no.
So I'll make a motion to approve number 2 as read, as stated in the goals and finance list, or department goals for finance and accountability.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. Number 3.
Again, Sean, you talked about not using the word all.
No, I'm fine.
Students.
I'm fine. I
You
said I was-
explained it.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Somebody else wanna do this one? I can do this one too if you
I'll
want.
make a motion
You're on
to
a roll.
approve it. Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 4.
We were all in consent. Did anybody have a problem with that one?
No.
Well, that one's the one that never got mentioned.
Right. Motion to approve, number 4.
Second.
Okay, a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. Number 5.
With community members, are we just strictly talking students, staff, parents, and administrators?
It's school community members, if you wanna take school out, then you can add on.
Well, I just,
I think we were just looking at the issues that have come up came up last year, in general, and just felt like that should be something that should be a goal.
Something that, so the idea behind this one was with, if I remember right, was all of the school incidents that happened, COVID, the aftermath of COVID, some of the stuff that's going on with telehealth and so on and so forth, trying to promote within the school community, which is really our job, that wellness and safety, and support efforts to do that. That's, I mean, again, that's the what, not the how.
Yep. And again, this was also on the national
Right.
school board governance. They've started adding this on because of issues in mental health.
can I ask Eddie and Robert then, are volunteers considered staff? Is there the protective
And when it comes to
liability?
safety, yes.
Okay, all
Yes.
right.
I would say when it comes to anything, if they're volunteered and they're here, and let's say they swear at a student, like, a volunteer can be fired, a volunteer can be disciplined, a volunteer can be told, you're not allowed to come back. Like, they get to be here because they are allowed to be here.
Fair enough.
Via the hiring
And they have
process.
to adhere to the same guidelines that are set forth in the handbooks.
Yep.
Okay.
Handbooks, policies, the whole 9 yards.
I make a motion to approve number 5 as written.
Second?
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you.
No, thank
Good
you guys.
discussion.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Honestly, that is the good discussion.
Yeah. Okay, district administrator goals, you just wanted to share?
Well, now that I have 5 goals to base off of, you guys now know we have data for these, what are we, dashboards? I shared with the admin team today, kind of like where we're going with this. We have an idea of how we want to present that to you. We will have something in complete writing with markers on that for our October approval.
Awesome.
But we are a long way down that road with it. The data exists, it's just wording it now and prioritizing.
Can I ask, the board evaluation, is that part of the goals that we approved, or is that?
Actually, you guys actually didn't.
We just approved the goals. That was really, we honestly never discussed that the
Oh,
whole
okay.
night. So it was just kind of a preliminary, how are we going to evaluate off of it, but it was never in discussion at all.
Okay.
Okay, board committee reports, charter school?
None. The board governance meeting is tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, yeah.
And they have not set a date for the Lakeland Area Consortium on Autism, but they're probably gonna be sometime in October.
Would be my guess, yeah.
Okay. All right, the consent agenda items. Anybody looking to remove a specific item? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt?
Yes.
Mrs. Peck?
Yes.
Mrs. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Umling?
Yes.
Mr. Seidel?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Thank you. Principals.
Great. The first one, switch from Stop It app to Speak Up, Speak Out. This is just something that Mr. Garkey had updated you on last year about the Stop It app use. Stop It app is something that we had paid for as a way for students to report anonymously events and incidents in our school. In addition to our team, Hope Cameron, Hope is our new assistant principal. She worked extensively with the Department of Justice in their process for setting up school safety. And she said, she goes, well, we can use the Speak Up, Speak Out app, which is free, provided through the Department of Justice, and it actually is better. And so we made the switch and started that already. I know that we received, over the course of the last 2 weeks, we received 2 different things from them. It is screened by the Department of Justice, and then they pass it along to us. So the Department of Justice has people that look at it in case there'd be a time where something would happen outside of the normal school day. If there's a suicide threat or things like that, the Department of Justice has somebody that can forward that on to law enforcement and help protect our students in times where we wouldn't be in session, where we would necessarily be looking at our emails and stuff in that regard. So it gives us a little bit greater level of oversight, and it's something that isn't a cost to us in the immediacy.
What, if someone does say someone's interested or talking about committing suicide, what's the turnaround for?
So from their standpoint is, at least the way it's been explained to me, is that they'll provide feedback initially to that student if they reach out within that regard, or if they're speaking directly about another student. If it's something that they feel is an immediate threat, they call law enforcement to do a welfare check on that student.
Okay.
And then we would be notified as a secondary, because it's an immediate threat, as opposed to, like, if they called me, I would have to call law enforcement anyway, so they go that direction first. It happens outside of the school day.
So we're hoping minutes, not hours or days?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know the exact response time, but the goal is that immediately when they receive that information, they're processing that as they go through.
They have the staff, we don't.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's 24/7.
Yes.
Okay, good.
All right, the second one, educator effectiveness process modifications. I can just share with you that when I sat at CISA this summer and went through our educator effectiveness rollover, there were some holes in how we had done what we did to evaluate and look at our staff over the course of the last few years. And I asked a lot of questions because I wanted to seek to understand it better. One of the questions that was asked by me is in regards to, they talked about coaching our teachers as opposed to evaluating our teachers. Being a coach, it was something that perked my ears up a little bit as to ways that we can provide more feedback back and forth with our staff. And so in doing so, we're switching from the standard informal, formal observations to what's called the rapid cycle feedback process. The rapid cycle feedback process has all the same things that we did in our standard formal, informal format, but it allows for conversations and documented conversations between staff members and administration. That's kind of an ongoing log of our conversations for growth. There still is evidence catching that goes through there, but in our previous plan, it was for a person in a summative year, they get 3 informal observations, which means that anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, and a formal observation, which was an entire class period. The 3 informals were unannounced, meaning an administrator would walk in and just do an observation in that classroom and take notes to gather evidence. In the formal, the teacher would know ahead of time when that's gonna be. We felt like those time periods were a little bit more of a prepared, not necessarily always the real deal that happens in those classrooms on a consistent basis. And so we went to, what we're doing in our summative years is 5 to 6 informal observations, which are part of this rapid cycle feedback process. 2 observations take place. A coaching conversation follows up on that with his reflection from both the administrator and the staff member. 2 more, same coaching process, and then 2 more where it comes to that final summative evaluation. The goal in this whole process is to create communication around what's best practice in our classrooms, and with us to have conversation with our staff that we're not trying to catch people doing bad things. We're trying to help support our staff to be the best that they can be, especially in the area where we can't find people to apply for jobs. We want to help train the people that we have to be great, or promote the things that are great to keep those things going in a regard that's going to be great for both our students and just the school and community in general.
So I have a question. On
Yes,
that
sir.
whole process, are there data points, specific data points that you plot on a graph that are trackable and over time, and that can show trends, plus minus, as a staff, as an organization, that can be analyzed and on graphing and so on and so forth?
Not in a way that would show trends, I guess, over time. We would have to pull that data separately. We use the educator effectiveness model through Frontline. We use CISA 6's model, which is Dr. Harry Strong, or James Strong, sorry, and Harry one in my mind. Dr. James Strong in that regard. The idea behind it is that there's standards there's sort of 6 standard areas, each have indicators. We provide evidence in those indicators. That evidence follows our teacher through and is an official record for each individual teacher as it relates, but it's not something that graphs in terms of where that fits in regard to that.
It's always frustrated me how we can track students based on performance, and we can say, that we have trends on students improving or falling behind in certain areas as standards change or whatever. But we never do that with our staff. It seems to me like we should have some sort of data point that says, yes, very specifically, this staff member improved in this area, whether it be student engagement or whatever that particular data point might be. So
We
that's
can
why I
pull
asked the
that
question.
data. You can pull data for all the ratings for all the staff. I did it in Merrill. The purpose of it though would only be if your evaluators have integrity, not integrity, what's the word I'm looking for?
Consistency.
Consistency slash, there's another word I want right now.
Calibration, validity.
Calibration is not the one, but they're on the right track. Either way, if they're fidelity, thank you. So, if your evaluators are doing it with fidelity, then it would be meaningful. If they are not or have not historically, it's useless. So I went to Merrill, pulled up all 235 employees. You could really see some nice data. All their data showed that all their teachers always got 3s and 4s, except for the one building where that one principal evaluated people effectively. There were 2s, 3s. There was actually a high turnover rate, and then they jumped 24 points on the report card. So I can tell you that people can do it. It is, again, it only works if you have fidelity, but you can pull the data. You just have
And
to
for
make
us,
them
we don't
manually.
have longitudinal data that we trust anyway.
Correct.
I
We
mean,
get
if
to
you,
do
that's
it.
really,
Well,
we're
right,
starting
but-
from square one.
But what it does show is that if you have all 3s and 4s and student achievement is going, then you know something's not right?
Correct.
I mean, they may
Yeah.
not, and I'll go back to the fish per acre in a lake. Just because it says there's 4 to 6 fish per acre in Minocqua walleyes, that doesn't mean you're gonna fish 10 acres and catch 40 fish, But if you go out and fish the same 10 acres one day on that 4 to 6 and you catch so many fish, and you go out and do it when it's at 3 to 5 or whatever, and that number changes accordingly with the data, then you know you got some pretty good data. Or you've got a bad data collection point. And, so sometimes data, even though the meaningfulness of the actual data being collected helps in a comparative nature. So that's why I asked the question.
I would say the toughest part of the whole process is the subjective nature of the process, because it comes down to the evaluator's preference, and I can tell you that I've sat alongside of 5 different people that have evaluated in the course of time that I've been here, and there's not a single one of us that would approach that same classroom in the same manner. And so some of the
That's why you're gonna be here for a long time.
some of those conversations that put me into some of the positions that I was in over the last couple of years by asking questions led to a little bit more like need for some of the stuff that Katie and I started working on actually 2 years ago, in terms of what is effective teaching, what does that look like in our classrooms, what is a vetted curriculum. Because I can share, I won't share the name of the administrator, but I watched a teacher that we put on a performance improvement plan that had a rating from one of our previous administrators that said, I witnessed no tomfoolery in his classroom. And that was the only data point that was given in that entire time for a person who was ineffective as a teacher. So I can tell you that we have work to do, but my goal is that with our team, that as we go through this process, we're gonna get more data and then tap into Eddie's knowledge of crunching numbers to have longitudinal data as we move forward, so. Right?
Eddie's our dashboard guy. He can put anything together in a
This would
dashboard.
definitely go, guys, tie back to our staffing plan. This would tie into how we are prioritizing, so many of those administrative functions. And we've talked about this a lot recently, but again, evaluation is so critical. And I use evaluation versus coaching because I can kindly suggest that people do something, but when push comes to shove and it's the difference between them leaving at 3:45 or leaving at 4:30, evaluating gets it done. Kindly recommending gets the same thing the next day, is my experience.
Well,
I'm not saying it's always the case, but sometimes that's what it takes to let people know you're serious about growth.
And now you have seen the
in kids.
binary nature of my staff.
And to the extent, to the extent that, then when we start talking about budgets and we talk about new programs that in the way past, we were getting reports on whether or not these new programs had worked or had an effect, and whether or not the money that we spent was worth it.
Sure.
So on and so forth. I mean, I know we're still kind of climbing the mountain here, but it'd be nice to get to the top and level off and then start to look at these things and.
Well, but
you know,
it all
and
comes
grow
down to the data.
incrementally rather than exponentially.
Right. All right, keep going. Sorry, Levi, I'm not stepping on your report.
And I didn't mean to make a
No,
long thing.
no, we're good, and I would just say is that he doesn't like the word coaching, but as a coach, I evaluated it a lot, and I decided to get back to play or not, so I can tell you that just because I'm coaching people doesn't mean I'm not having those critical
Yeah.
conversations.
And the process is so, like, there has not been a good, the way Frontline lays out educator effectiveness is not user-friendly when you first look at it. And hopefully this RCF will help it be more effective. The key thing is to have buy-in to it. No matter how well you evaluate somebody, if they don't buy what you're selling, it doesn't matter. So there's a little bit of balance between the two of, hey, I forgot you thought this was a question. No, that wasn't a question. I told you to do that. And at the same time, sometimes it takes a little softer touch to get somebody to see things. I've been doing this for 30 years. How many times do we hear that tonight? Some of our high-quality staff members, you suggest at first. Because otherwise, if you come in hard, they're gonna dig their heels in, and they're really good at it after 30 years. To do that, sometimes you have to be, hey, I saw this. This is what I'm seeing. Can we use the data to address this problem? Most people don't wake up trying to be ineffective.
Yeah.
So.
And, you know, as in coaching or anything in life, you know, we got, people work and respond to different things in different ways. As a coach, you know, I can't really say this to this gentleman over here, but I can over here, and that's how you just sort of do the stuff. I mean, take whatever you can. As the coaching is the linear thing of evaluating, give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
A combination of anything just to get the best out of people. And I think that's what you're trying to do anyway, so, yeah.
Maybe my part of it, and again, I'm not knowing a lot, is that this seems to be the crux of our termination issues too sometimes, is that to have a, I don't know, is it a proper evaluation or, what's the word I'm looking for, legitimate?
Documented.
Documented. We always say, did you document? Did you document those things? And if you didn't, you're out of luck.
And I think there's a difference in the termination process between it being a coaching and an evaluation. Oh, I'm not meaning to get you, Gary. But, you know, just making sure that that doesn't become an issue when we have to.
Barb, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna say that Levi is correct. It's very subjective. And to be fair to our staff, they know that it varies. Their evaluations vary on who's doing the evaluation. And it can be totally unfair or it can be fair. And so we have to be fair to our staff. At the same time, yes, we want to figure out how to do this, how to come up with data, but we have to be fair to the staff at the same time.
Yeah, but in that same vein, I mean, even in our own experience as a board, there's times where there are certain topics where we've evaluated ourselves, we've given ourselves all 2s. And then there's other times where we've given ourselves 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5. And, you know, if nothing, it doesn't necessarily mean that evaluation has validity, but it does point to work that can be done. That's the point that I was trying to make. I mean, I don't necessarily care, but if you don't ever write it down, if you never track the 1, 5, 1, 5 or the constant 2s, you don't know. So, and that's kind of what I meant by that, I guess.
We also switched to that we're taking departmental supervision as a whole in that regard, so like both Jen and Katie are involved as well this year, that we'll be responsible for the entire department, so that's consistent across the department, so that if we see lower scores in an area or higher scores in an area, we'll at least know that we've evaluated everybody in that area to provide a consistent feedback of like, well, if they're scoring so well, these are their top end teachers, these are their lower end teachers, and we can address those issues a little differently, because some of that inconsistency led to somebody saying, well, so-and-so was in my room and they gave me all 4s, right? But then Levi walked into my room, he gave me 2s. Who's most accurate? Well, now it's gonna be accuracy across the department level to give us a little bit more consistency in that regard.
I also want to point out that if you're worried about accountability, you're looking at the 2 administrators who put improvement plans in place last year to get better results for kids. So the accountability's there. It's not pretty, it's not fun, it takes a little darkness out of you every time. But if you think kids aren't first and adults the next thing, you'd be mistaken. Some of us just look at it a little bit differently. I probably am the balance. There is definitely a more technical way to do it and be very authoritative with it. And Levi and Eddie and I have had this conversation. There, you can evaluate somebody right out of the district if you want. You also can evaluate to absolute, you know, impotence. You're not gonna get anywhere with it. So I think the goal here is to try something new, find something we believe in and buy into. So just not do it because DPI said so. Do it because it's something good for kids. And if we can't buy into this system, believe me, we're gonna change it. So.
The last thing I'll say is, this is a line from Eddie, which I love, is like, we can do RCF, UCF, WWTF, whatever, like, he said all the different acronyms we give to the evaluation process, if we don't do it with, what was your word again?
Fidelity.
With fidelity, right, it doesn't matter, and so like, our goal is that's like, we're changing it a little bit too, to note it, like, this is different, this isn't the same old, and with that change, there's gonna be some fidelity that goes along with it, so. And I know because Eddie will hold me accountable.
We hold each other.
Do each other.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Levi.
Yeah. You're up.
Before I get into the crux of my report, I talked to a colleague of mine this afternoon. Wanted to remind me, because I was in a funk, if you can't find one good thing that happened today and with students, you need to try a little harder, okay? We're in this for the right reasons. Take a step back and see what you accomplished for the day. I'm saying that for you guys because if you'd have told me a year ago we were to have consensus on 5 board goals, I'd have told you you're absolutely out of your mind. We are closer than we have ever been to being in almost complete alignment in what we want for kids. Methodology, oh, we aren't even close. And I don't want us to be close because there's 9 people in here and there's 706 kids that we gotta deal with. So we need all hands on deck and every suggestion possible, but take a step back and realize how far we've come. And realize that every day you gotta find a success, and we work in the greatest profession because we have 706 souls here that we can look to see a positive out of. I had a young man in my TB20 today who, if you would have told me he would have done his geometry today, I'd have laughed at you. He not only got his geometry done, he got 6 assignments done in 20 minutes. He's very intelligent, just not real motivated. But that was my success for the day, and sometimes you need to take those little steps to be grounded, and we've taken some tremendous steps, frustrating steps, and side steps, and back steps, and all other steps in between, but just know we are on the path, and there is a lot. There is a lot to handle. There's a lot that hasn't been done. There's a lot of stuff that was done incorrectly. There's a lot of stuff that's changed. This is just the beginning. With that, you know, you look at the first point, our student count is tentatively 705, 706. I say tentatively because there's always outliers out there of, oh, I'm gonna open enroll now, I'm gonna leave this time, or these kinds of things. Fortunately, I have a business manager who accounted for that in his budgeting, so he feels very confident his numbers are on the mark.
What did we have last year, Bob?
We were 744 last year.
Wow.
I never know the number, I always know the rolling average. Last year's rolling average was 736, and this year we're looking at 728.
Yeah, the rolling average.
The rolling.
Butts and seats
Yeah,
is 705, 706.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get a .5 in there, but I don't know.
So what was last year's butts and seats?
719, 720.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 728 is
Yeah.
the number.
It again depended on the June, 3rd Friday, and then the 2nd Friday counts.
It's in
It
your
varied a
annual
little
meeting
bit.
booklet from last year in Appendix A. All 3 years are listed there.
And will be updated as we go along. That's one of those longitudinal points. Obviously, we're taking on some things. I made the mistake of asking a question to DPI, and they said, hey, you should probably update this, as it was signed by Todd Kleinhans and Ms. Baker. So, there's things like that we uncover every day. And because you're following through and doing these things, you have to answer, because now you have to do something about it. But we're getting there. It's just a lot. I'm personally sitting in on every IEP at Star School, just to learn their procedures and see how things are going there. One, because it's a good practice to have our administration represented there, and 2, to support what they're doing there. Because obviously when you deal with students with high needs, it's good to have the person who makes the final call in the room sometimes. So that's why that's going on. Very nice environment, gets me out of my office, which is nice. We had our first Point of Beginnings meeting on last Thursday. A couple things, we were working on timelines. You guys asked when we were going out to bid for things. Well, we came to the conclusion we should probably go out to bid for bleachers and lights now. So we're trying to bring them to you in October, the bids for those, or for all the options that we've discussed. It's because if we can't agree on one of those, no point in moving further if we can't agree on what the bleachers are gonna be, because they're not doing anything else if you don't do the bleachers. So we're trying to get those on, and the other part of that is with fabrication, you wanna get on a list sooner than later. So if we're gonna commit to a project, we need to get on a list if you think it's gonna get done in the summer next year. So that's why we're at for both of those. We will have bids to bring forward to the board.
Awesome.
It's exciting, it's also nerve-wracking. When you start talking about the quantities of money we will be dealing with, hopefully we'll have some ideas and clarity around that. It's a good time to talk about it, because we'll be talking a lot about money in October. So with our annual meeting and such. You might have noticed there was a cybersecurity breach. Some of you have now noticed you're getting a lot more emails. We are in the process of making some changes to update our security system. I don't want to go into too much detail on that for obvious reasons. But I just wanted to, get quiet over there, media guy. But we are adding things that we should have probably added a while ago. The obvious one is two-factor authentication, which I'm sure is going to meet with mixed, people aren't gonna be happy about that.
Problem I have with multi-factor authentication is all it does is block the gateway. It doesn't stop the problems from happening that are already there.
And especially when
But
they
I
don't
liked
happen
it-
on your
but I
system or
liked-
server.
I liked the comprehensive plan, because the comprehensive plan will take care of, two-factor authentication is gonna do very little for you. The rest of it's what's gonna do the lion's share.
Baby steps, Barry.
So, email is, because Skyward got hacked, email's affected by that?
We don't know what is completely affected by that, but they access most of our systems through their Google, which is their email.
Okay.
So we need to be cautious on what was or wasn't got. And we weren't the only district affected, so that much I could tell you. And, Skyward's got a whole team of people, so they can fix that. So, but I just wanted to let you know that was being addressed, just a happy Monday.
They did start we met with some attorneys today. They're starting the inquiry process. I think that we're gonna have minimal, amounts of notices required and things like that. The grand total of people who were messed with in the software is 7. And so I don't think it's gonna run rapid. I think we're gonna hopefully cap it fairly quickly. They're probably gonna support those 7 individuals by running credit reports and assigning a company to do that on an ongoing basis for a while and some of that kind of stuff.
And I do want to give Lorinda Schmitz and Edward Then a big thumbs up, because this was the Monday after the payroll went. And they found it right away in the morning, and it set his whole day afuzz. But that's not an easy catch sometimes. I think it's nice to have people who have experience as well as the wherewithal to be the squeaky wheel, if you will, to get answers. And I will tell you, Eddie was a very squeaky wheel, and I was very happy to have him on my team that day. And I would hate to be the person who tried to do this, because if I think Eddie could get a hold of him, it'd probably be the end of him. But it's nice to know that we got some people in place that could check things, because paper doesn't get hacked and people don't get hacked. So we have some extra layers to that than just cybersecurity. So it's good to have people who know what good looks like.
Are the hackers looking for money or just information?
A little bit of everything. So and we don't know to what extent. That's the part we're at right now.
I'm gonna say that they basically hijacked one check, and the irony in it is that it was mine.
I wasn't gonna say it, but that's,
that's the kind of ironic and funny part, but.
It's appropriate.
It is, and again, the other ones that they had messed with, the timings listed in Skyward were after Lorinda had sent the file. So even though they did successfully change some bank accounts, they did not actually succeed, because the file was already out the door. So, like I said, I think we're gonna be fairly contained, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we have some closure on it, so.
Good.
Yeah.
To the next.
Can I just, if we ever get held ransom, Ransom?
Yeah.
Do we have an insurance policy that
Betcha.
covers how much?
Don't tell.
Well, the deductible, we'd have to cover the deductible regardless.
Well, yeah, I'd say we pay the deductible. I wanna say the policy's good for about $250,000 or so. And we just turned out, like the other day, this payroll had some coaches on it and things like that, and I think it was 284,000. And you can only get so much.
Okay.
The cyber insurance market has gone just crazy. And
Very
they are,
expensive.
a number of carriers hopped out of the market, which drove prices through the roof. And the ones who remained are obviously trying to manage the risk and make sure that they don't somehow go belly up. Cause again, these things, like depending on what could have happened, so like if somebody had my password, for example, like we store information for all kinds of things, and that was one of the questions I asked is the lousy one check they stole or tried to steal just a diversion for access to all the information that's actually within the system. Now our student system is different from our
Right.
staff and other stuff, so that was a huge win right there. But again, just the places it could go if they had that information, could be significant in the amount of money and time and, personal attention that all the affected individuals would need could get crazy. So again, there are caps in place, and we bought a pretty much as hefty of a policy as we could. Or at least that was reasonable, and that's approximately close to our payroll. Usually our payroll is a little less, cause we're not processing coaches on a regular basis. That's just kinda once during the season, once at the end. Is that right, Lisa? That Loretta's typically doing that? So this is one of those in-between ones where we're cutting some extra checks.
Okay. The other wonderful thing I'm dealing with all the time is transportation. The normal beginning of the school year, we're trying to figure out routes and who goes where with what. I'm sure they've been more than happy to share with you, the parents in our community, about their experiences with the bus company. Not gonna beat that up. I will tell you, we have spent significant amounts of time discussing it as a superintendent group, and we are looking to find some solutions that would benefit everyone. Right now, we're just working through it. I mean, it's a day-to-day thing. And again, it's being 5 districts as opposed to 1, so there's a lot of moving parts as opposed to one point of contact. So just keep working through that. And as with everything else, the ESEA title funding plan's getting updated. That's fun. Eddie had told me on one of our other federal grants that I was listed as the point person from fiscal year 2021. If anybody does the math, I haven't been here that long. So we're trying to get some things squared away with the system. So.
Okay. All right. I would entertain a
There's no motion, actually.
You guys wanna go into closed session?
Yep.
Motion to convene into executive session under 19851C and F to discuss and consider individuals' employees' compensation or employment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This is gonna be pretty quick.
Break should be fairly quick.
Okay, good.
Forgot to give you